So one of the key provision is Section 54(3), and I'm sure everybody would have read in the news about Supreme Court delivering a judgment relating to inverted duty structure. Now, what Section 54(3), Section 54 deals with the refunds, and 54(3) specifically deals with cases of refund of unutilized input tax credit. And there is a proviso in Section 54(3), which in particular says that no refund of unutilized ITC shall be applicable or allowed except in cases where credit has accumulated on account of rate of tax on inputs being higher than rate of tax on output supplies. Now, what does this mean? This means that your inputs are at higher rate, but your output supply is at lower rate, which is resulting in accumulation of credit. And if such a credit gets accumulated, then you are eligible for refund under this proviso to Section 54(3). There is a formula prescribed under Rule 89(5). The formula, as you can see on the screen, is that there is a turnover of inverted rated supply of goods services. You multiply that by net ITC and you divide that by adjustable total turnover. From the outcome, what you get, you subtract the total tax payable on supply of inverted rated goods or services. And net ITC has been defined as ITC availed on inputs. So the dispute was that only ITC availed on inputs was included in net ITC and not on input services. Because what happens is that, when you have inverted rated supplies, you may have input services also, but those services are, for that, you are not eligible for a refund. Okay, so we'll see that how the jurisprudence came out and how this matter reached to the Supreme Court. There were two contrary judgments, one by Gujarat High Court in the case of VKC footsteps, where Gujarat High Court held that Rule 89(5) was ultra vires, the parent section, which is Section 54. They said Section 54 does not carve out any exception. It allows refund of any accumulated input tax credit, and it does not restrict it to inputs alone. Whereas in Madras High Court, in case of trans-tunnel story, they held that no, there is what Section 54 provides is a restriction, and it restricts ITC refund, only accumulated ITC refund, only in respect of inputs, and input services is clearly excluded, and therefore there is no violation, and Rule 89(5) is intra vires. There is no illegality in it. Now, this matter went to the Supreme Court, both sides, and there were multiple other matters which went to Supreme Court. And Supreme Court, after hearing all sides, they upheld the order passed by Madras High Court, and they reversed the order of VKC footsteps passed by Gujarat High Court. Supreme Court said that Section 54(3) should be read in plain terms. You cannot import any words. You cannot bring the legislative intent or the ultimate aim to neutralize or all the taxes. So that is like a utopian view, and which will eventually happen. But as on date, whatever legislature has drafted, that needs to be looked into, and only that can be seen. So they have said that the proviso to Section 54(3) does not stipulate a condition that only if the tax on inputs is higher than tax on output supplies, then the refund would be eligible of all the accumulated input tax credit. Rather, the Supreme Court held that it is a restriction provided through this proviso. A restriction has been provided in Section 54(3), which restricts the refund of only accumulated credit on account of inputs. Also, they said that the judiciary cannot expand the boundaries. They cannot legislate. That is in the domain of parliament or legislature, and the courts cannot redraw the boundaries of any legal provision. Further, they also held that inputs cannot be said to include input services. The use of the term inputs in the proviso to section 54.3 should be seen only as inputs and not, it cannot include input services within its ambit. Also, they said that the whatever the missing words as may be prescribed in rule 54.3 does not make any difference, because rules were framed under section 164 and therefore there is no ambiguity, and 164 clearly says that it is to give effect to all provisions of the act. Therefore, rule 89 gives effect to the provisions of section 54, and therefore there is nothing wrong in it. So now this brings us to a point, also important point. So first we'll tell you our view, and then we'll also tell you that where Supreme Court has given relief. In our view, we feel that what section 54.3 proviso provides is a condition for eligibility, and it does not state that it restricts, there is no restriction there that it is only the ITC accumulated on account of inputs that is available. However, because now it is the Supreme Court judgment that will prevail, and therefore the taxpayers must look into their inverted duty structure, and they must exclude the input services while claiming refunds. Another important aspect which came before Supreme Court was the formula under Rule 89.5, whether it was logical, whether there was an error, and there, because the formula, as we discussed a couple of slides back, it talks about input, it talks about net ITC, and net ITC, as I stated, includes only ITC on account of inputs. Whereas what is subtracted out of this is the tax liability on account of inverted rated supply of goods and services both. So what Supreme Court noticed is that while in the net ITC, the revenue is taking only ITC on account of inputs, but on the liability side, they are excluding the entire liability on account of inverted rated supply of goods as well as services. So this is a lopsided approach. They did not agree with the petitioner's assessee's claim, where they said that first input services should be allowed to be utilized from the accumulated ITC, and thereafter input should be utilized. They did not agree with the revenues contention also, government's contention also, that the formula is correct. But what they've said is that since the court itself cannot legislate on this or cannot struck down the formula based on this, so they advised the GST Council to reconsider the formula and devise a mechanism whereby it is not lopsided in view of revenue, and either certain percentage can be defined, that what percentage will be treated of inputs and what of input services, like, or alternatively some ratio can be decided, and then accordingly it can be utilized for deducting the amount of tax on inverted supply of goods or services. So next we come to some other case laws, very, very important case laws. This one again is on inverted duty structure. Now here what had happened is that there was this petitioner who was trading in IT goods. So it procured information technology related goods, it purchased those goods, and it was supplying those goods to certain specified nominated agencies which were eligible for certain exemption. So while inputs attracted, say, 18% rate, but the output, because of an exemption notification, attracted lower rate. And this again resulted in accumulation of credit. And pursuant to this, he filed a refund claim under section 54.3, which we just discussed in BKC. the authorities rejected the refund claim by saying they relied on a circular 135. Para 3.2 of that circular said that those inputs which have been, the phrase inputs used in section 54.3 should have been utilized for manufacture and then supplied, and only then the refund is available. It is not available for cases involving pure trading. So what Guwahati High Court said is that this is erroneous interpretation, because section 54.3 does nowhere stipulates any such condition about manufacture, and it is only saying that tax on inputs is higher than tax on output supplies. In this case, because of exemption, the tax on inputs became higher and the tax on output, even if it was trading, was lower, and therefore this was a case of inverted duty structure and refund was eligible. So they remanded the matter to authorities to compute refund. Next is there are a couple of advanced rulings that we will discuss, and these are in relation to goods which are specifically customized for use in submarines. So in case of APAR Industries, this is a appellate authority for advanced ruling, Gujarat. They were supplying marine pressure and non-pressure tied cables, which were essential and integral for use in submarines. Now, submarines, because as we all know, are in water, and they require these extremely high pressure cables, and therefore these cables are especially designed for submarines, and without these cables the submarines cannot function. So by taking note of this particular aspect, the advanced ruling authority, appellate authority for advanced ruling, agreed with the petitioner that yes, these are to be classified like submarines as parts of submarine under heading 8908, and would attract 5% concessional rate of GST, which is applicable to submarines. Likewise, Exide Industry case, they were supplying batteries, especially designed batteries to submarines. Again, court noted that advanced ruling authority noted, Maharashtra authority, that without batteries, the submarines cannot function because they do not have any source of power, underwater. So these batteries are very, very important and critical, and therefore these will get classified as parts of submarine and would attract 5% GST rate. So moving on, we discuss another important aspect, which is in the case which was decided by BG Shirke Construction by Advanced Ruling Authority of Maharashtra. Here what happened was there was a registered office which was providing managerial and leadership support services to group companies as well as other units, sister concerns, subsidiaries, branches, different, within the same related, they were all related parties. Now, these group companies and other units were separately registered under GST. They were distinct persons, and therefore the supply of these managerial and leadership service support services were held to be supplied within the meaning of Section 7 and were exigible to GST. However, what authority said is that since full ITC is available, therefore, the valuation can be adopted in terms of Rule 28 of CGST rules.
Now, coming to the next ruling, this is a very interesting one. So, in the case of Kanhaiya Realty, from the manufacturer, retailers were purchasing specified units of hosiery goods. And when they purchased the specified units, the manufacturer was supplying goods like AC, refrigerator, in nature of promotional goods at nominal prices. So here the question arose that can manufacturer these supplies along with the hosiery items will qualify to be a mixed supply, and will ITC be available or not? So advanced ruling held that it's not a mixed supply because these are being supplied for separate prices. No single price was charged, and they are neither a composite supply because these supplies are not naturally bundled and are not supplied in conjunction with each other. So they held it to be a separate supply, attracting respective rate of tax. And as far as ITC is concerned, the authority held that these are being supplied at nominal charges, so they won't qualify to be a gift. And since they are not gifts, so Section 17(5)(h) of CGST Act doesn't bar any credit and ITC is allowed. Now coming to the next ruling, in the case of Eastern Coalfield, basically here the recipient claimed ITC on invoices which were issued to him for the period January to March 2020. This supplier reported these invoices in his GSTR 1 and 3D of November 2020. Now these returns, these reported invoices got auto-populated in GSTR 2B in November 2020 on hit and trial basis, because this 2B got effective from January 1st, 2021. So here the recipient asked the question whether he can be denied this ITC on the ground of 16(2)(c), which mandates that the tax must be paid by the supplier to the government since the supplier belatedly reported these invoices. So here the authority held that 2B was made effective from January 2021 and it has no statutory force. Therefore, no credit can be rejected basis GSTR 2B, because under 2B it was shown as an ineligible credit. As far as the ITCs pertaining to these invoices is concerned, then such credit was awarded in violation to Rule 36(4), and no credit should be allowed. So this was being held. However, in our view, this is incorrect. Rule 36(4) of the CGST rules has no legal backing, and the amendment which was made in the recent Finance Act by inserting clause AA to Section 16 of CGST Act is not being effective yet. So considering these, the credit shouldn't be disallowed.
Thank you, Parul. Now, another important advanced ruling is on CSR, and almost all corporates have CSR responsibility. In this advanced ruling, what the authority did, they relied upon CSR policy rules, wherein they provide that activities they specifically exclude activities undertaken in pursuance of normal course of business from the purview of CSR. And by relying on this and then looking into Section 16, where ITC is allowed on goods services received in course or furtherance of business, the authority held that since the expenses incurred on CSR activities cannot be said to be received in normal course of business or furtherance, therefore ITC is not available. In our view, this is an incorrect advance ruling for the reason that the CSR spend is a statutory liability of the company, and therefore ITC should be available. And what CSR rules say is not binding on GST law, which allows credit in respect of statutory liabilities. Next is the Delhi CSTAT judgment. This is in the case where a petitioner had availed advance authorization prior to GST. It failed to completely fulfill the export obligation and therefore was required to pay CVD and SAD, the benefit of which was taken on import of duty-free inputs. So it was required to, in order to discharge the advance authorization, redeem the advance authorization, it had to pay CVD, SAD after coming into force of GST. And now, by that time, since Senvat credit rules were no more there, the petitioner could not have taken the Senvat credit of CVD, SAD so paid to redeem the advance authorization. And eventually, it filed a refund claim under Section 11B of Central Excise Act, read with Section 142, subsection 3 of CGST Act, which permits not only sanction of such claims, but specifically provides that all such refund claims should be sanctioned in cash. So the original authority and appellate authority rejected the claim of the petitioner, and therefore this matter traveled to the tribunal. Tribunal held that the refund is available because under Section 11B, and it is available in cash because this, after payment of CVD, SAD, the advance authorization has been regularized all those inputs had GST not come in place, all those credits would have been available. The petitioner was eligible for Senvat credit of the same. Now, because these were paid after GST, neither the credit is available nor the petitioner could have taken it, because these were not reflected in the returns. He could not have taken in Tran 1 also. Therefore, refund is duly available. So with this, we come to an end, but we will give some highlights of what the assessees, what the companies should do. So first and foremost, they must timely file the duty credit scripts. As Parul rightly mentioned, that December 31st, 2021 is the last date and no late cut is allowed. Therefore, whether it is SEIS, whether it is MEIS, whatever claims have to be filed for availing these scripts must be filed before 31st December 2021. Second important point, which I discuss about the Supreme Court ruling. Therefore, 90 days would expire on December 31st, 2021. Therefore, if there are any appeals, any applications, any suit, anything needs to be filed, that must be done before December 31, 2021, unless the law itself allows you additional time. Another important point is that the taxpayers must assess if they are exporting services and their SEIS claim is getting hampered because of the notification that I discussed during our roundup, then they must evaluate whether to challenge the notification before the writ court. Another important point is based on the BKC judgment of Supreme Court. If you have inverted duty structure, then you must evaluate it and exclude the input services while working out the refund amount. Last but not the least, the taxpayers, Parul discussed the ruling in the case of Kanhaiya, where the item which was given as promotion at nominal rate was allowed, ITC was allowed. So all the discount incentive schemes must be revalidated and evaluated to see the GST perspective. If it is a free item and you have an adverse position you have taken, maybe you can have a nominal value so that ITC is available, and therefore you must relook at all your schemes, discount schemes and incentives. So thank you very much. We wish you all the very best, and the season, festive season is coming. So all the very best. Also take care, stay healthy, take care of your health, and we wish you all the very best. Thank you for joining in such large numbers. Thank you, Parul, for such a wonderful session. Yeah, thank you.